Lindsay is an ordained minister with the Centers for Spiritual Living. She serves through her focus ministry, which is titled Fearlessly Feral Living, with the production of a podcast of the same name. And it's available wherever you listen to podcasts. She is also a published author, and she's done with her third book, or almost done with her third book. So close to being done with her third book. And we are looking forward to that. I bet you're looking forward to that. She believes that she's been to Unity many times. She's been to spiritual living centers. And she believes that we were put on this earth to be happy and powerful and express ourselves as unique manifestations of spirit that we are. She lives in northern Nevada, in Wellington, Nevada, out there where it's so beautiful. And my grandparents used to live out there many years ago. She enjoys riding her horse, gardening, and cooking, and of course, going to potlucks. And her message today is transcendent purpose. And so now I would like to invite Reverend Karen up to speak.
Well, good morning, everybody. All right, let's lower this a bit so I can see you and you can see me and you can hear me. Well, I need to update my bio. And before I get started on my talk, I wanted to mention about this book thing. So if anybody out there is really, really geeky in all things book publishing, come see me, because there's a speed bump, not in the writing, but in the production of it. So anyway, getting over it. And the person that was helping me has, well, I don't know where he went. He went somewhere, not here. So yeah, today I'm talking about transcendent purpose. And I'm going to, there we go. Okay. Every time I come here, I really enjoy listening to your initial opening affirmation. I am the expression. And I would love to invite you, I am inviting you to hold it in your heart, that affirmation, I am the expression of God. Because in exploring this topic of transcendent purpose, that's ultimately what it boils down to. And so I got this topic from the Centers for Spiritual Living Global Themes. It was actually the topic for September. This is October. Yeah, it was last month's topic. So I've been sitting on this topic and exploring it and thinking about it and contemplating it and having it be in my slow cooker for quite some time. It's a big topic. There's a lot there. And honestly, a whole talk could be done just on transcendence and another whole talk just on purpose. So I'm going to try and condense it all down. And I'll be real honest. So who here knows what the word transcendent means? I know. I didn't know what it was either. I had to look it up. And when I looked it up, I went, oh, this is really cool. I love this word. It means beyond ordinary limits. And I went, oh, now isn't that what we're all about around here? Going beyond ordinary limits. We transcend the ordinary. And I thought to myself, well, that's certainly a good topic for a conversation. And what took me so long to develop this topic and dial it in was I got so wrapped up in transcendency that I forgot about purpose. And so I had to go back and redo everything and throw some purpose in there. Think again about I am the expression when you're thinking about purpose. So I got to thinking about how we transcend the ordinary. And I think all of us in some way, shape, or form transcend the ordinary. I've gotten to know some of you. I know we have a published author in the audience. I know we have a couple massage therapists in the audience, and knowing you as I do, at least a couple, knowing you two as I do, I know those massages are probably pretty good. We have some excellent, excellent pro-level musicians in the audience. We have some other folks that I don't know as well, but as I look around the room, I'm thinking, I don't need to tell you guys about how to transcend the ordinary. You're all doing it. You're all doing it. But I did take a little exploratory trip around this word transcend and realized that sometimes when we transcend the ordinary, we get, well, I'll just spit it right out there. My job in life is to always transcend the ordinary. It always has been. And thus, some people have called me driven. You're so driven. It's usually voiced to me by people who are feeling neglected because I'm driven and I'm out there doing stuff. And so there's a shadow side to transcending the ordinary. And I got to thinking about this and going, okay, there's that shadow there. The other part of the shadow to transcending the ordinary is that sometimes we want to transcend so far beyond the ordinary that we might fall into a trap of thinking that says we are not enough. And I never want to advocate that. I always want to begin where we're always transcending the ordinary. Each and every one of you has transcended or is transcending the ordinary in how you show up in your life. And then I want to go, but wait, there's more. There's always more. And that's what I Am the Expression is about. Because we get to more by acknowledging our oneness with God. That's how we get to more. This is the purpose that I want to weave throughout my talk, is that there always is more. So when we transcend ordinary limits and we sometimes bump up against our own limits in doing so, we want to have enough awareness to be able to recognize that we've bumped up against a limit and go back into oneness. And think in terms of, well, God doesn't have any limits. There's no limits to what God is. And if we are the expression of God, then how can there possibly be any limits in our own life? Only those that we place upon ourselves in our own humanness. So we transcend that. We transcend our own humanness. So I wanted to mention a couple limits that we might have. I've already mentioned unworthiness. Here's another one. How about perfectionism? Oh, anybody out there so invested in doing things perfectly that they limit themselves? I used to mentor a woman, and she was in school, and she could never progress in her work in school because everything had to be done so perfectly that she couldn't complete her assignments. So we can limit ourselves with that perfectionism. We can limit ourselves by being pessimistic. We can limit ourselves by being optimistic. In this teaching called New Thought, which Unity is a part of, it's all good all the time. Focus on the good. What we focus on expands. We focus on transcending. That's all optimistic stuff. And yet, there is a shadow side to that one too. What if something happens in our life? We experience a loss, or a great, big, huge, monumental change that we're not completely happy about at the moment. Are we supposed to remain optimistic and say it's all good all the time? I don't think so. I think we got to process that stuff. I think we have to acknowledge that, yes, this happened, and yes, I feel lousy about it. And that's okay. And we look at the stuff that goes on, and we look at our feelings about it, and we practice unconditional love and compassion for ourselves. And that in itself is transcending a limit that we might place on ourselves. But I'm here to say that in so doing, all of those feelings that we might be experiencing as a result of a loss or a monumental change that we are not really so appreciative of, once they feel heard, once they feel acknowledged with love and acceptance and compassion and kindness, they say, okay, I'm good now. And they lessen in intensity. And then we can move back into that place of optimism. And from that place of optimism, we can begin creating a new purpose in life. Because that's the cycle of things. This kind of stuff, when when something's thrown at us, we want to go to all good all the time. And there's a process to get there. And if we do that process to get there and get truly into that all good all the time, then we get to this beautiful place of creativity. And we're not bound by our past anymore. Ernest Holmes said, this is one of my favorite quotes by him of all time. He said, principle is not bound by precedent. And what this means for me is that anything that happened in our past, that's our precedent. Principle is our current stuff. We live our lives based on principle. We don't live our lives based on the past. And so when Ernest Holmes said principle is not bound by precedent, he meant our current lives do not have to be based on anything that happened in the past. Which means that for us to say things like, well, I've always been one that did it this way. Well, maybe we want to transcend that. Maybe we want to move beyond that. That's a limit that we place on ourselves. Or, I'm never going to do that again because I did it. I tried it once and it didn't work out so well. Well, maybe we want to transcend that. Maybe we want to try again from a different perspective, with a different consciousness in our hearts and our minds. The rest of the paragraph around this quote, the principle is not bound by precedent. By the way, this quote is in Living the Science of Mind, a book by Ernest Holmes, which I love. He says, principle is not bound by precedent. There is no law in the universe that seeks to perpetuate old limitations. But there is a law which responds to our greater vision at the exact level of that vision. The mind should be kept in a buoyant, expectant, enthusiastic attitude. All weightiness and confusion must be eliminated. And we must think back to that which is boundless and free. And this leads me to our purpose. I think our purpose is contained in words like buoyant and expectant and enthusiastic. and lightheartedness and clarity. I think that's where our purpose lies. I think our purpose lies in fully believing and feeling and knowing and being and embodying that phrase that you use, I am the expression. I'm trying to get away from using the word embodying because I realize a lot of people don't know what it means. So I looked it up. It means to give concrete form to. That's what embodying means. So if I'm embodying, let me get back to these words. If I'm embodying buoyancy, what does that mean? It means I'm moving lightly, perhaps. Or I might visualize a balloon filled with helium that floats around. When I think about buoyancy, I get a smile on my face. It's like, oh, I'm light. I'm walking and moving easily. I'm going to run up those stairs that are outside this room. Instead of walking up them, I'm light. Expectant. I expect my good all the time. I am not one of these people that believes that expectations are premeditated resentments. I don't agree with that premise at all. I think part of our purpose in life is to expect our good and more good and even more than that, whatever our good is. Ernest Holmes talks about an enthusiastic attitude. I don't know about you guys, but sometimes I have to work at being enthusiastic. When I have to set my alarm to get up early in the morning to come up here and see all you lovely folks, I'm not waking up enthusiastic because I'm not a morning person. Given my druthers, I wake up by myself around 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. And I do the math, it takes an hour to drive here from my house. That's not going to work because I'm also a slow to wake up person. It's a good minimum hour for me just to sit and read or contemplate or meditate, maybe do a little writing. There's no way I can function unless I've been awake out of bed for an hour. Then I'm ready to get cleaned up and showered and dressed so that I can drive to see you. So it's a little bit of a journey to get here. Now, if I get to sleep in and wake up when my body tells me to wake up, then I usually wake up enthusiastic. But if we have to work at being enthusiastic, what do? I don't know, gratitude. Gratitude works for me. Gratitude works for me. I wake up in the morning grateful that I have an alarm to wake me up. Grateful that there's fur-based critters in my home that are calling for my attention to get me out of bed and get me moving. Grateful that they're grateful for my attention. When I go outside every morning to feed the horses and they whinny at me in gratitude. And the cats stop yelling at me when I feed them, which is a form of gratitude. And the dogs are just happy whether I feed them or not. They don't care. They're just happy all the time. Gratitude helps us have an enthusiastic attitude. So we move into our purpose by cultivating these things like expectancy and buoyancy and enthusiastic attitudes and optimism in balance, like intelligent optimism. And we get to create our purpose. And I already told you guys, there's nothing ordinary about any of you. But what if we could transcend even that? You guys are already beyond the ordinary. What if you could go even farther beyond that? What would that look like? I am the expression. It's a call, an invitation for us to move even more into this thing called oneness. To embody or give concrete form to this thing that is a part of us called God. There's a little mantra I ask myself occasionally. It's kind of a weird mantra because I can never really answer this question. But in the trying, in the posing it to myself, I can move towards transcending what's now ordinary in my life. I ask myself, what would God do? And then I settle into this buoyant, expectant, enthusiastic place and think about, well, what would God do? I practice some gratitude and I think about, what would God do? And then I go and I do that. And that's how we give concrete form to this thing. I am the expression. That's how we transcend our ordinary limits. That's how we move beyond the ordinary. That's how we create our purpose in life. So our purpose in life, yes, sometimes purpose is going to include things like, I'm going to be a good author or a good violin player or a good massage therapist or a good whatever. Not only am I going to be a good one, but I'm going to be a great one. Award-winning, best of, those best of lists. I'm going to make the best of list every single year. We transcend the ordinary. But underneath all of that, because it all begins within, underneath all of that is the inner peace where everything begins. And we move into that place of I am the expression. And that is our foundational purpose. That's our bottom line purpose. That's where we begin and that's where we end. From that foundation of I am the expression, we can then move out into the world and set our purpose for anything we want and transcend what currently passes for ordinary in our lives. Even if other people look at us and say, that's pretty extraordinary, we know we can transcend even that. And there's a piece of me that also says transcendence also means acceptance. It also means resting in our good. It means fully and completely accepting our good. Fully and completely accepting that where we are right now is enough. That's a form of transcendence, at least for me. For someone who spent many, many, many years of her life living in unworthiness, being able to simply rest in enoughness, that's a form of transcendence. And when we can accept that, we can transcend all the other limitations that we place on ourselves. I believe that we are here to make manifest all the beauty and the power and the might and the magnificence and the prosperity of spirit. Now, it's going to look differently for each one of us because each one of us is in a different human skin, a different bag of bones. You know, I look around at your faces and I notice the physical manifestations of spirit in each of you, and each one is different. And I'm thinking of the unlimitedness of God when I think of that. When you look at how many human beings exist on this planet, each one is different. Each one is a manifestation of spirit. Each one is an expression of spirit. That's infinity, guys. That's a perfect example of how unlimited God is. And when we can think about that, then we think about our own limitations and we can move from there. So today I'm inviting you to think about that word transcendence, going beyond the ordinary. I'm inviting you to think about what's ordinary in your life, to think about whether or not you wish to move beyond that or stay happily and freely and joyously in the now because you've already transcended the ordinary and it's nice being in this place for a little while. I'm also inviting you to think about what that phrase, I am the expression, means to you, because that will move you. It will change you in ways you never dreamed of. Those are my invitations for you today. And as you think about those, I have visions for each and every one here, just like I have visions for myself. I have a vision that we live life fully, completely, beautifully, joyously, in a state of buoyancy, lightheartedness, optimism, gratitude, expectancy of our good. So that's my vision for you today. So I'm going to move into prayer. Already knowing that God is everywhere present and that I am the expression of that God, as is each and every person present here, both online and physically in person. I am the expression. And as that expression of God, I am knowing and speaking my word right here and right now, that each one of us is even now transcending the ordinary into a greater purpose in our lives, whatever that looks like. Each one of us is living in a beautiful state of buoyancy, lightheartedness, gratitude. Each one of us is moving about with a smile, breathing easily, enjoying a sense of rightness in everything. And from this place, each one of us is moving out into the world and doing and speaking more of the same. Spreading all that good everywhere. And so I release my words into that law that always says yes, knowing it is already done. Transcending purpose. It is done, it is complete. And so with gratitude I anchor, and so it is. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.